Are we confronting catastrophe after all? NASA specialists had given the all-clear for the asteroid Apophis, determining that it will just miss us in 5 years. But now, according to a new study, Canadian astronomer Paul Wiegert has concluded that the 350-meter-wide rock may still alter its course and take an unforeseen diversion. But how likely is it that Apophis will collide with a smaller object and then set its sights on Earth? What might be the consequences of this worst-case scenario, and if it came to that, would there be anything we could do to prevent an impact? On June 19, 2004, astronomers Roy Tucker, David J. Thalin, and Fabrizio Bernardi gave the world two things: on one hand, the discovery of a previously unknown asteroid orbiting out there, and on the other hand, full-blown media madness. The celestial body, named Apophis, quickly made headlines as an alleged killer asteroid that would come dangerously close to Earth on April 13, 2029, a Friday the 13th, no less. There is no doubt that the name of the 350-meter-wide space rock is ominous. After all, Apophis shares its name with the ancient Egyptian god of chaos and darkness. Leaving aside all the ominous associations, the initial estimates by NASA specialists were concerning. According to these early calculations, the impact probability in December 2004 was estimated at 1 in 37, or 2.7%. To put this into perspective, this was the highest value for an asteroid of this size ever reached on the Torino impact risk scale. Indeed, the corresponding impact probability at that time not only referred to the year 2029 but also to the years 2036 and 2068. We likely don't need to mention the media's reaction to these figures. However, today, 20 years later, public and scientific attitudes have long since calmed. Thanks to precise follow-up studies, it is now considered almost impossible for Apophis to collide with Earth in 5 years, unless something unexpected happens in the coming years that undermines all mathematical predictions. More on that in a moment. What is certain, however, is that the impact of Apophis would likely not bring about a global apocalypse like the asteroid that ended the age of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, as Apophis is simply too small for that. Unfortunately, though, the consequences of a strike would still be massive. According to scientists, the impact crater alone would span several kilometers, and the force of the impact would be powerful enough to devastate an area the size of Central Europe. Specifically, researchers suspect that Apophis would release the energy equivalent of 900 million tons of TNT in the process. By comparison, the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, had an explosive force of only 15,000 tons of TNT. Although these figures are both impressive and frightening, the energy of a hypothetical asteroid impact would have to be more than 10 times greater to destroy the Earth's entire surface. Experts generally believe that the immediate kill zone would have a diameter of 250 kilometers. However, the specific impact results would largely depend on where the asteroid hit Earth. If Apophis were to collide with the ocean, it could submerge nearby coastlines under a massive tsunami more than 100 meters high, devastating not only the coastal areas but also the inland region, killing countless living beings. Could Apophis hit Earth after all? The good news is that, as it stands, what we've just discussed is only a terrifying thought experiment. As previously mentioned, observational data indicates that Apophis will just miss Earth. In this context, just means a distance of 32,000 kilometers. So, in 2029, the asteroid will pass below the geostationary orbit. However, the all-clear regarding an impact comes with a small but possibly significant caveat: Apophis will only pass Earth if its trajectory remains unchanged. The probability of a change in orbit is low but not zero. That's not all, though. Astronomers have confirmed that Apophis's orbit is already in the process of changing. The radiation pressure from the Sun is shifting it by about 170 meters each year. Fortunately, this shift is not enough to direct Apophis towards Earth in 2029. However, it could lead to a collision on a later pass. Additionally, even the best current projections cannot rule out the possibility of Apophis being struck by a smaller asteroid. Canadian astronomer Paul Wiegert, from the University of Western Ontario, explains that such an impact could impart enough momentum to dangerously deflect Apophis. NASA's DART mission recently demonstrated how a celestial body can be deflected in such a scenario. As part of the mission, the DART spacecraft acted as a flying battering ram, crashing into the surface of the 160-meter-wide asteroid moonlet Dimorphos. While this literal deflection was only an experiment, such a push could have serious consequences in the case of Apophis. When does it become dangerous for us? As mentioned, the deflection of the asteroid was measured in 2020, and given this, one might think that experts would be well advised to keep a close eye on Apophis. That is precisely what they would do, if they could still see it. However, Apophis has been out of Earth's view since 2021, and it will not move back into it until 2027. The simple reason is that the asteroid is currently moving near the Sun, making it invisible even to the most powerful telescopes. So, what happens in the meantime is uncertain, and we won't know how much its orbit has changed until a maximum of 2 years before its flyby. Fortunately, direct observations are not the only way to assess the risk of deflection. Using a model simulation, Paul Wiegert analyzed what would have to happen for Apophis to pose a threat to us. The astronomer's first task was to determine the potentially dangerous size of the impacting asteroid. Previous studies had already shown that Apophis's orbit would have to be shifted by about 200 kilometers to allow it to enter the keyhole. This keyhole refers to a small zone near Earth where Earth's gravitational field would deflect Apophis in 2029 enough to put our planet in its sights on its next pass in 2036. And if you think it would take a full-grown asteroid to guide Apophis through the keyhole, you're mistaken. A collision with an object only 60 centimeters wide would be sufficient. Such an impact would change the asteroid's speed by about 0.0003 meters per second, allowing for the crucial 200-kilometer shift. The conditions for an impact in April 2029, on the other hand, are somewhat different. In that case, Apophis's speed would have to change by about 0.005 meters per second, or, in other words, it would have to collide with an object about 3.4 meters in size. For us here on Earth, it is somewhat reassuring that the mere impact alone would not be enough. Additionally, the impact would have to occur at a precise time and with the proper direction. When it comes to probabilities and potential outcomes, it is clear that this is possible but highly unlikely. How likely is it? In this regard, Wiegert points out that around 140 objects, each 60 centimeters wide, strike the asteroid belt every year. However, only one object with a diameter of 3.4 meters collides annually. Given the much smaller cross-section of Apophis, this means that the probability of the asteroid entering the keyhole due to an impact is 1 in a million. The calculated probability of an impact in 2029 is even lower. According to Wiegert, it is 1 in 100 million. Given that only 5% of the impacts of a 3.4-meter-wide object provide an impulse in the decisive direction, the corresponding probability drops even further to less than 1 in 2 billion. As we can see, the risk of impact is very manageable from a purely mathematical perspective. But if, against all odds, the asteroid comes into close contact with Earth, our number crunching will no longer help us. Since this scenario cannot be completely ruled out, it's all the more important for experts to measure Apophis's trajectory as precisely as possible again starting in February 2027 when it comes back into our field of view. A deviation of more than a few tenths of an arcsecond could indicate a disruption to its orbit. However, according to Wiegert, this does not necessarily mean that the asteroid is on a collision course with Earth. Further observations and analyses would be prudent, and, in fact, researchers are currently developing a small satellite to accompany Apophis during its Earth flyby. After all, we should not forget one thing: despite all the calculations, Apophis also offers scientists a huge potential for knowledge. The close approach of a rock this size only occurs once every 1,000 years on average. The passage also offers researchers a unique opportunity to study a near-Earth asteroid up close. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the universe. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more amazing updates.